Revolutionary War by Jason Miller, Giovanni Leperfido, and Mitchell Zalecki.
The Navigation Act of 1651. The Navigation Act said that the colonists could not trade with anyone other than Britain within the colonies. This was also to keep all the gold and silver from going all over to foreigners so they didn't get wealthy. This also resulted in the Anglo-Dutch War in 1652. Salutary neglect. The salutary neglect was an unofficial policy by Britain. It was to relax the enforcement of laws and regulations imposed on the American colonists. This helped the colonists by trading with non-Britain entities that also spend the wealth on British-made goods. This also helped America to make an identity for themselves. This violated the Navigation Act because they could not trade with other countries when the Navigation Act said that they could only trade with Britain. The Proclamation Act of 1763 was issued on October 7, 1763 by King George III. The proclamation made a line along the Appalachian Mountains which could not be settled on. This made the colonists not to be able to settle west of the Appalachian Mountains. Sugar Act. The Sugar Act raised prices throughout the colonies. The English products will be cheaper than the products from the West Indies. The Sugar Act reduced the rate of the taxes on molasses from 6 to 3 pence per gallon of molasses.
The Sons of Liberty. The motto of the Sons of Liberty was "No taxation without representation." The Sons of Liberty were a secret political organization that tried to destroy British rule and unfair taxes in America. Some members of the Sons of Liberty included Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, and John Hancock. Stamp Act. The Stamp Act of 1765 put a tax on all printed documents. This included legal documents, licenses, newspapers, etc. This tax angered colonists, saying that the act was unconstitutional. Colonists acted violently to try to intimidate the tax collectors. This act was repealed in 1766. The Quartering Act. In 1765, Parliament also passed the Quartering Act. This act outlined the different locations British soldiers could stay at. New York refused to comply with the act, so Parliament passed a New York Restraining Act. This act stopped the governor from signing with any further legislation until they complied with the Quartering Act. The Boston Massacre occurred on March 5, 1770. A group of protesters came out to taunt British soldiers when one got hit in the face with a snowball. Shots were then let loose. 5 people were killed in this massacre. The Gaspee Affair. The Gaspee was a British ship that patrolled the waters enforcing the Navigation Act. A group of colonists led by John Brown and Abraham Whipple attacked and boarded the boat and then torched it. This increased tension between the colonists and the British, leading up to the Revolution.
The Tea Act. The Tea Act occurred May 10, 1773. This granted the British East India Company a monopoly on tea sales. The taxes on tea existed since the Townshend Revenue Act of 1767. The Boston Tea Party. It occurred December 16, 1773. Colonists did not want to pay taxes on tea. They dressed up as Mohawk Indians, and the Boston Tea Party was not a symbolic figure, it was just a protest. The Intolerable Acts. They occurred March 24, 1774. These were harsh laws passed by British Parliament. They punished American colonists for the Boston Tea Party and other protests. The First Continental Congress. On September 5, 1774, the First Continental Congress was a meeting of delegates from 12 of the 13 colonies who met at the Carpenter's Hall. Some delegates were former presidents such as John Adams and George Washington.